Hello, you're watching QPVN News. I'm Anh Tuấn, and here's the headlines. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính begins official visit to China. Bill on Vietnam People's Army officers discussed. Đà Lạt Flower Festival to bloom in December. On the morning of November the 5th, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính and his entourage arrived at Kunming Changshui International Airport in China's Yunnan province, starting their working trip to attend the 8th Greater Mekong Sub-Region, or GMS for short summit, at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Qiang. The Prime Minister will also participate in the 10th Ayeyarwady Chao Phraya Mekong Economic Cooperation Strategy, or ACMECS for short summit, and the 11th Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, or CLMV for short cooperation summit, and engage in activities in China from November the 5th to the 8th. Welcoming Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính at the airport were Liu Fei, member of the Standing Board and head of the Organization Commission of the Yunnan Provincial Party Committee, Chinese Ambassador to Vietnam He Wei, and Vietnamese Ambassador to China Pham Sao Mai, among others. The trip underscores Vietnam's message of valuing and contributing to the promotion of the GMS, ACMECS, and CLMV mechanisms, as well as overall Mekong sub-region cooperation, creating a breakthrough in a new phase of development, while affirming Vietnam's consistent foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, multilateralization, and diversification. It also demonstrates that Vietnam is a trustworthy friend and partner, an active, responsible member of the international community. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính will visit Yunnan Province and Chongqing City, where he will meet with Chinese leaders, visit economic and social establishments, and interact with the Vietnamese community in China and overseas. On the afternoon of the same day in Kunming, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính and a high-level delegation of Vietnam also visited the Ho Chi Minh Historical Site, attended the Vietnam Culture and Tourism Festival, and met with officials and staff from the Vietnamese Representative Office in China, as well as the Vietnamese community in Yunnan Province, China. On November the 5th, under the chairmanship of National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn, the 15th National Assembly's 8th session held a significant plenary discussion on the proposed amendments to the law on officers of the Vietnam People's Army. National Assembly Vice Chairman Trần Quang Phương led the session. Most deputies agreed on the pressing need to update the legal framework for military officers and weighed in on key new measures. These include formalizing the party's stance on building modern officers, adding deputy roles within the officer's rank, extending the maximum age limits for service, and clarifying policies on officers' benefits, covering issues like promotions, pay raises, social insurance, and housing. Vietnam People's Army officers often spend more time away from home and family, which calls for special support policies for them. Amending this law will help attract and retain high-quality personnel for our armed forces. With the aim of strengthening the Vietnam People's Army, deputies also recommended that drafter consider adding allowances for officers engaged in combat-ready missions, as well as those on standby in various military units and the reserve force when mobilized for defense and civil protection tasks. After listening to opinions of the National Assembly deputies, General Phan Văn Giang, Minister of National Defense, clarified some new contents of the draft law on amendments and supplements to a number of articles of the law on officers of the Vietnam People's Army. Minister Phan Văn Giang emphasized that the amendment and supplementation to a number of articles of the law on officers of the Vietnam People's Army aims to further institutionalize the party's guidelines and policies and the state's laws on the building of a contingent of military officers, ensuring feasibility and suitability with the actual conditions of the party and the military's personnel work. It is true that in peacetime there are forces with special labor intensity whose working age can be extended to meet the task requirements. This law should be applied for all officers instead of a single force, but we can issue specific decrees or circulars for certain types of officers. In our point of view, 3-year training can be used up in a 1-hour battle. That's why even in peacetime, we must train troops intensively so that we can handle any situation when it occurs. In the coming time, the Ministry of National Defense will take into full account the opinions of National Assembly deputies to revise and complete the draft law to submit to the National Assembly. On November the 5th, the General Staff held a working session with relevant agencies to discuss the regulations on the mechanism for reporting on the results of the task performance of the Vietnam peacekeeping forces at UN missions to support the implementation of Vietnam's peacekeeping activities. Senior Lieutenant General Phùng Sĩ Tấn, Deputy Chief of the General Staff of the Vietnam People's Army, chaired the conference. The conference focused on analyzing and clarifying the necessity of issuing regulations on the mechanism for sharing information about the task performance of the Vietnamese peacekeeping force at UN missions, while discussing the scope of information allowed to be exchanged and provided, as well as methods and procedures for sharing information between agencies inside and outside the Ministry of National Defense when unexpected situations rise. General Tấn assessed that the sharing of the results of the Vietnamese peacekeeping forces' task performance at UN missions is of great significance, contributing to spreading the image and role of the Vietnam People's Army and the Vietnamese peacekeeping force in performing international tasks to the people as well as the international community. General Tấn requested the Vietnam Department of Peacekeeping Operations to continue finalizing the draft regulations and submitting it to competent authorities for consideration. On November the 5th in Hanoi, the General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army held a conference to review the preparation work for the scientific conference themed "The General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army, 80 Years Firmly Forging Ahead under the Communist Party of Vietnam's Flag." After listening to the draft plan for organizing the workshop, members of the organizing committee proposed some solutions to ensure quality coordination and to meet the goals and requirements. The organizing committee requested each agency's unit to strictly ensure the progress, quality and efficiency of the preparation work. As planned, the workshop, the General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army, 80 Years Firmly Forging Ahead under the Communist Party of Vietnam's Flag, will be held on November the 18th. On November the 5th, Senior Lieutenant General Lê Huy Vịnh, Deputy Minister of National Defense and Deputy Head of the Steering Committee for Administrative Reform and Digital Transformation in the Ministry of National Defense, chaired a conference to discuss the implementation of the Prime Minister's Directive No. 34 on the development of digital transformation plans for various ministries, sectors and localities. The Ministry's digital transformation strategy, which targets 2025 with a vision to 2030, is designed in alignment with Directive No. 34, ensuring adherence to its objectives, requirements and principles. The strategy aims to be responsive to the evolving needs of the military, with clear areas of breakthrough identified that will significantly impact sectors under the Ministry's purview. Key focuses include establishing a synchronized modern digital infrastructure with extensive, secure and seamless connectivity, advancing shared digital data and applications, and developing shared digital platforms and services. Senior Lieutenant General Lê Huy Vịnh urged relevant agencies and units to expedite the development of foundation data across key sectors such as personnel management, defense land data, and technical equipment data to lay a unified scientific groundwork for digital transformation. He emphasized the need to translate these breakthroughs into specific tasks for 2025.
Coming up next, Standard Chartered forecasts Vietnam's GDP growth to reach 6.8% in 2024. Đà Lạt Flower Festival to bloom in December. In its latest economic update, Standard Chartered Bank has forecast that Vietnam's GDP growth will reach 6.8% in 2024, with growth momentum slowing from the third quarter. Standard Chartered also predicts that fourth quarter growth will be approximately 6.9%. Retail sales are projected to reach 6.2%, with the export sector also expected to achieve a 6.2% growth rate. Vietnam has recorded several months of trade surplus this year, and the foreign trade sector remains relatively stable. According to Standard Chartered's experts, while short-term economic pressures may persist, Vietnam's economic performance is currently exceeding market expectations. The government's strong push for economic growth may support maintaining low interest rates in the near future. Vietnam national brands in 2024 were honored at a ceremony in Hanoi on November the 4th with the theme Forging into Green Era, which affirms the information towards environmental friendliness of the Vietnamese models, actively contributing to the protection of our green planet and sustainable development.
PNJJSE has achieved the title of the Vietnam national brand for 9 consecutive times. With a business philosophy towards sustainable development, the company have promoted many activities to fulfill their responsibilities to the environment and society, while applying advanced corporate governance standards to bring sustainable values. We have criteria that are oriented towards the international community. For example, in production, we consider the greenhouse effects in our host system nationwide. To realize the Prime Minister's commitments to the goal of net zero emissions by 2050, Vietnam must solve the problem of both moving towards a low-carbon economy and achieving outstanding growth, in which businesses are not only pioneers in the economic field, but also the driving force in green development trends. It is not all about promoting traditional growth drivers, but also emerging ones. We always wish that our businessmen would take their time, wisdom, compassion, and business ethics as the roots for sustainable development of a business when entering the green era. That is what we desire most. 359 products of 190 enterprises achieved the title of national brand in 2024. They are such Vietnamese brands that are committed to constantly developing to create better values for customers, society, and community.
The Lâm Đồng Provincial People's Committee has announced the program for the 2024 Đà Lạt Flower Festival, which will take place over nearly a month at the end of the year, featuring various activities to stimulate tourism. The festival continues to affirm Đà Lạt as a Vietnam's flower festival city and a UNESCO creative city in music. The city is also listed among the top 5 impressive festival cities of Asia.
On the morning of November the 5th in Hanoi, the Lâm Đồng Provincial People's Committee, in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, introduced the festival Đà Lạt Flowers Symphony of Colors, which will take place in December. This year's festival aims to be a spectacular artistic program featuring unique performances, grand flower exhibitions, and many exciting activities. The Đà Lạt Flower Festival 2024 is a cultural event that also allows Đà Lạt to exhibit its specialized flower products. Visitors can take immersive excursions around enormous flower gardens, learn about cultivation and care techniques, and buy flower-related gifts. The festival is expected to be a significant boost for the tourism sector in Đà Lạt during the year-end period.
This is the end of the QPVN News today. Remember to watch our news again at qpvn.vn. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.